Hello everyone, in this video I will introduce some basics of Python language and the ipython notebook. The basic concept of this tutorial will loosely follows the chapter 2 of the famous book Python for Data Analysis that is written by Wes McKinney, just this one. We will loosely follow the code examples in the book. So let's get started. The first thing we need to deal with the Python code is how can we run a Python script. So as we all know that there are two ways to run Python code. One is you can write a Python script. Another way is you can run it in the command line. So interactively. So in order to run a Python script, you need to have a Python script ready. For example, in my local directory, we define a function called print hello world, and then we run this function. The first way to run the Python script is to open your terminal and to run type Python and the name of the Python script, and then you can run your code there. So for example, if we open we can't open a terminal here. So let's see, let's open another. Let's go to we type Python and then hello world py, and then the Python script is executed, and then the output is a hello world script. If you are working in the Jupyter Notebook environment, you can use the magic command to run hello world.py. So after you run this block of code, you can get the output of this script. So yeah, that is how we run the Python script. But in the following tutorials, we will just demo the code that is interactively run in the ipython notebook. So let's go to some basics of the ipython. Basically, what you if you want to run your Python code, you can type your code in a cell. For example, if you are in a cell that is in the code mode, then you can use Shift and Enter. Then the Python code will be executed. So don't worry about the np.random.random, this function. We will cover that in our later tutorials. The very first thing about ipython is some command that we need to use in this environment. The very first thing is about the tab completion. So that means if you have some object name already exists in your Python environment, then if you type partial of that and then you hit tab, then the name or the related functions will be pop up in the system. If you are familiar with the Linux system, this is not a new functions. So for example, if we have two variables called an apple and an banana, and then after we run this code, in the next code, if we type an and then we hit tab, then the system will automatically gives us the variables or the functions or the objects that start with an. So in this example, we can choose an apple, a banana, or an and any, which are the two keywords in the Python system. So yeah, and then we hit enter, we can just choose this variable. So um, besides this, it can not only works for variable name, it can also works for the related method. For example, in our example, an apple is a list. So we will cover about list in later tutorial. But uh, in this example, we just show that an apple is a list, is a special object in Python. And then after you type dot, it will um, automatically complete the method that is related to a tab if you hit tab. So yeah, after you hit tab, then all the method that related to list uh, is shown in your screen. Then you can um, select whichever method that you want. Um, for example, if you type reverse and then I think the apple object is a reverse. So at beginning it is 1 2, and then after you run this one, it got 2 1. As an additional example, if you import some modules from Python, and then if you hit tab after the dot, it will give you all the functions or the object that is related to this Python module. For example, in this date type module, you can choose date or date time or time delta, whatever function that is in this list. In the last showcase of this function is if you type something that related to your directory, you can also get some complement of the directory. So for example, dot is a symbol that says the current directory, and then if you hit tab, then it will gives you all the current files that is in this directory, and you can do the similar thing for other directory. So and if you hit tab, and it will automatically complete that. So this is a very useful trick that it can automatically complete your function or object names or function different function types, and then your directories. So the next thing I want to talk about is the how to get help. So for example, if you have a function called print, if you don't know how to use that, you can put a question mark after that and then run this block of cells, and if it will give the doctrine of the functions. Now you can take a look at how to use this function, what are the argument looks like. You can do the similar thing for a Python object or a variable. For example, in an apple, we just make it as a list with the content to 1, and then after you type the help command, you can get a general description of the Python object and apple. The next thing is about some magic command. For example, if you create a large matrix, you want to test how long does it take for a dot product, you can use the command time it. make sure that you put a percentage symbol before that, and then it will automatically calculate the time that a code that's run. So this is a very useful command for you to test the efficiency of the code. And others code that I found very useful is the pwd command, which is similar to the command in the Linux system. So I will now talk about all the magic command here, because this series of videos is focusing more about the Python for data analysis, or equal to say the pandas package. So I don't want to spend much more time on irrelevant thing on ipython. So even though ipython is a very good tool, but I don't think all the people will use it in their own development experience. So in this tutorial, I will just cover some basic command that I found is very useful. For example, this one is to test the code, and this one is working with the directories. You can probably also do ls. You can get a list of the files in the current directory. And for example, if you want to do some plotting thing with matplotlib, and you want to show the pictures or plot inside the cells, you can put this command at the beginning of the code. Okay, so I think that is so much for the ipython environment thing. And then if you find something that you don't know, or you can also Google that online, or go to the help document from the ipython notebook website. So next, I will go through some basics of the Python language. I will discuss more about the Python data structures in the next video. Here is just a very common programming knowledge point. For example, the first thing is what is the difference between the Python language and the C or C++ is the Python language depend heavily on the indentation. So for example, in the for loop, in other languages, it have a bracket to show the body of that for loop. But in Python, everything it will depend on the indentation. For example, everything is indent here that corresponds to the for loop, and then everything that is indent here that is corresponds to the if statement, and for here this one is corresponds to the else statement. So the indentation is very important in Python. You need to make sure that it is in the right place. The next thing is how can we comment code. So this shortcut is very it's very useful. So you just press Control and then the /1, and it will comment and uncomment code here. So this is helpful when you want to make a block comment of your code. There are several ways to call functions. If it is a normal function, then you can use fx, y, z, something like this. And if it is a method that's related to an object, you can use the grammar that the object dot some method that is associated to this object, and then give the argument of the functions. For example, we just show that if object is a list, and then we just use the list dot, for example, reverse, and then we give an empty input, and it will reverse the list that we are working on. Okay. Um, so the next thing is about some magic or some characteristic of Python list. For example, if we have a list of A, and then we set B is equals to A, and then we append another variable, another number 4 to A, we can see that B is also changed according to A. So you need to pay a very special attention to this if you are just started to work with Python. So because for here maybe you may think about that B is just equals to 1, 2, 3 because we didn't append B with 4. But in reality, if you do this in this way, B is equal to A is a so in reality, if you change A and B is changed accordingly. I think if you want to do something different from here, you need to make a, for example, you use the copy module and then make a copy of A and then assign that to B. So I think that is beyond the scope of this tutorial. So this example is just to show that some special thing about Python. Okay. So yeah. The next thing is dynamic reference and strong types. So that means you don't need to give an explicitly assertion of what types of a variable is when you assign numbers to it. For example, you can directly set A equal to 5, and then the Python will decide what kind of data types it is. For example, in this case, it's an integer. Note that it is not a float thing. For example, if we do 5.0 and then the type will be a float, that is a real number. And then if you give it to a string, the type is a string. And if you plus two things together, and then you will get a type error. Then you cannot convert in the object to string or whatever. And this is an example of how can you format a string. So this is a string, but by using the format with a curly bracket like this, you can actually give some variables in this position. So in this case, this is the zeros position, which is the first position, and this is the ones position, which is the second position. So in this case, the string is actually filling the blanks with the variable of type A and type B. And then in this one, you can check whether A is integer or not by using the isInstance function. So for example, if A is an integer and then you check this function, you get A is integer, which is true. And this one you can give a list of the function types. So 5 and 4.5 are an instance of integer or float. Attribute and method, as we just say that if A is an object of Python, if you do a dot something, you can get actually a whole list of the method that related to this object. In this case, A is a string, and then if you hit tab, you can get all the methods that related to string. So as we can see in string, we have an um, we have a function called upper, and then we can use get attribute of a and upper. That means we just run that function, and then it changed everything into uppercase. And then here is some um, example of the get attribute function. That's just to run a dot upper in another way. Duck typing, that means if you are familiar with this, you know that if that basically means if something that walks like a duck and then runs like a duck or eats like duck, and then that kind of thing can be called a duck. So that means in order to define if a function or if an object is iterable or not, you actually just to try to run the method iter, and then if it is true, then it is iterable. If not, if it gives you an error, then it is not iterable. So this is just an example to show that. Okay, so as we can see that the string and the list is iterable, which means it can be run with the iter function, but if it's just an integer, then it is not. Import. So for example, in our script function, we have already defined some function like this. So if we want to reuse this one, we can actually import this script as a module. So we just import hello world, which is the name of the Python script. And then after you import that, you can actually call the function inside the script by using hello world dot the function name. And then after you call this function, as you can see, it can gives you the output of the function. You can also give an alias of the module. So you import this module as something, so that you can have some shorthand of this module. The next thing is something, it is like a calculator thing. You can do normal calculation in Python plus, minus, less than or equal to define whether it is less than or equal to. And then you can do an is or is not. That means that shows that if A isn't the same as B, and equal that checks whether the value of A and C equal or not. And then Python also have a special type of none. So if A is none, and then you just show if A is none, then it is true. For mutable and immutable object, that means if you have a Python object, for example, like a list like this, and then you want to later change the value of this list. So can you do this? Yes, actually in this example, you change the third element from 4.5 to 3.4, and then it gives you the desired result. But if the object is a tuple, something like this, then you cannot change the content of this object. So we will talk about this later. Some of the Python object is mutable, but some are not. Here are some more examples of how do we do Python as a calculator. For example, this one is this variable raised to the 6th power. That is a very large number. And then this is the division, and this is if we use 7 divided by 2, and then what's the divisor is 3. To work with strings, for example, if we type a string in multiple lines, Actually, there is changing line uh, special character /n uh, in each at the end of each string. So actually you can call the string method like count. You can just count how many new lines that you have input in this string, and you can check whether the string is mutable or immutable. But after running this code, you know that you cannot change the values of the string. But if you want to do that, you can use something like a replace function to change string to longer string, and then you got a new string for B. Um, so in this case, you run the replace function to A, but the value of A does not change. It only assigns the new string to the variable B. Here are some more results on how to convert your types from a number to a string. And then here is convert a string to a list, and then it will separate the alphabet. Here is a simple example on how to slice your list. That is column 3, that means from 0 to 2. There's 0, 1, 2, so there's 3 variables pyt. This is just an example on the special character thing here. I think I haven't used this one very often in my current work. So if there's R at the beginning of the string, that means the raw string. Yeah, so you can see there's no special characters in this string. And then the string is can be defined with the plus thing. That means just concatenating these two strings together. And this one is for format thing. And as we just show that, talk about 0 means the zeros per position. This is 1's position. This is 2. The third position corresponds to the parameters here. And then it will, after you run this format function, it will format or actually insert those values into the curly bracket. For byte and Unicode, I think I will skip this one because I never used this one in my research because I only works with the English characters. For booleans, you can do true or false. That is like normal calculators. You can do 0 and 1 calculation. I think we just talk about the typecasting. That means you can change, you can get the function type by using the type function, and then you can get the type of the object. And then if you want to change an object type, you can just using the int or float or bool function to change the type of the object. And as I just said, none is a special type of the Python object. So if you type a type of none, and then it shows that it is a none type. It's a special thing. Python also have the date type functions. It can help you to work better with the date type object. So that is depend heavily on the date type modules. I think we will talk about this one in our later series in the time series tutorial. For the control flows, I think that is almost similar to the C++ or R or MATLAB thing. So the if and else if and else keyword are just if, else, and else. And then the binary decision thing is just right after if. You don't need to add a bracket after that. Just to use a colon after this, and then everything is based on the indentation. So the for loops, you can do for loops something like this: for I in a list, and then you do your same, you do your things in like other coding grammars. Don't forget to put a indent in the blocks of code. While loop is similar thing. You can just put a while and then do a decision expression after that, and then that's it. Pass is a special keyword in Python. That means in one block of code, if you want to do nothing, you just put a path there and the code is still right. Especially when you are in the for loop, most of the time if you want to loop it through 1 to n, and then you can use the range function. So basically it will create an object called range that is goes from 1 to n or 0 to n minus 1. If you do that in the for loop, it will automatically loop it through 0 to n minus 1. This can be viewed as a more efficient ways to do the for loop rather than you looping it from a list directly. The last thing is the ternary expression. So if you have used the C or C++, so you will find it similar. Then that means if the value of this expression is based on this binary expression. So if this one is true, and then it will returns the values at the beginning, and else it will returns the value in the end. So in this example, x equals 5. So if x is greater or equal to 0, this is true. So it will returns the value at the beginning. So actually the value variable will equals to the non-negative thing. But if x equal to -5, and then it will the whole expression will returns the value in the end after the else. I think that is so much for today's tutorial. Thank you for watching.